Next News. Breaking news from the White House.
Tonight, the firewall around the 2020 election story may be cracking wide open. President Trump has already moved against former CISA chief Chris Krebs, the man who branded that election the most secure in history. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel says arrests tied to the 2020 election wrongdoing are coming soon. Not rumors, not anonymous leaks, arrests. Add that to the fresh reporting on foreign access to voter databases, allegations of ballot manipulation, and questions about what officials knew and hid from the American people. So here's the question the media never wanted to ask. What if millions of Americans were right all along? See, the story matters to every citizen because if election systems, voter rolls, or ballot handling were compromised, then your vote was not just ignored politically, it was diluted operationally. That's not some abstract fight for cable news panels. That is the core contract between the citizen and the republic. If dead voters were counted, if ballots were backdated, if sensitive voter data was exposed to foreign actors, then law-abiding Americans played by the rules while insiders gamed the system. Communities lost trust. States lose legitimacy. The country is pushed into years of division by people who then demand silence from the victims. Politically, this is even bigger because the former Biden administration and its media allies, they spent years mocking concerns about 2020 while censoring dissent and protecting the gatekeepers who certified everything as clean. President Trump is now forcing accountability back onto the table. And that means the establishment may finally have to answer for what it dismissed and buried or helped cover up. And while we're talking about systems being manipulated from the top, we need to talk about what happens when the financial class uses panic the same way that the political elites do. Noble Gold understands something that most Americans, they learn the hard way. Wall Street doesn't lose money on sell-offs, you do. They create the panic, wait for you to dump your position out of fear, and then scoop it up at a discount. The big banks, they're not selling their gold, they're buying yours. Every time the headlines scream, regular people sell. Every time regular people sell, the institutions are right there waiting with open hands. Now, you built portfolio insurance for a reason. Don't let a red day hand it over to the people who caused it. That's why I tell people to look at real protection with Noble Gold Investments. Right now, go to nextnewsgold.com. It's linked below. And you may qualify for a free 10th ounce American Gold Eagle with a qualifying purchase. When elites manufacture panic, smart Americans protect themselves. Now let's get back to the story. They hoped you had stopped watching already. I'm going to tell you, this is the angle. This is the angle the corporate press still will not touch. This is no longer just about recounts or court filings from years ago. We now have renewed focus on foreign access to voter systems, including reports that Iran and China breached voter registration databases, plus a claim that Nevada voter data was emailed to a Pakistan-linked tech firm. And if sensitive election data was exposed overseas while officials told you everything was locked down, then the cover-up may be as important as the breach itself. I mean, it's all over today. I mean, the web is just dripping with all these videos coming back to the surface. Electronic thermostat in Savannah, Georgia, picking up the Wi-Fi signal from the electronic vote tabulation machine and sending the results to China. The skiff. The 2020 election was stolen. We all know that. Listen carefully.
That in Savannah, Georgia, there is a a smart thermostat in one of the tabulation rooms that is talking to a tabulation server and reporting the votes back to China. And that was traced by a Microsoft engineer. And he brought it to our attention yesterday. So that's being monitored. We already knew that there was a huge overseas problem. And it's not just social media. Your votes in 29 different states, your votes were going to Frankfurt, Germany. They were ending up on a server owned by Clarity Elections.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. We're just getting started. That clip lays out the machine side allegation in Savannah. Now watch the reaction from the people. They called us crazy for years. When you get proven right about the stolen 2020 election, COVID, and literally everything else you've been telling people for years. Oh, yeah. That's how we feel right now. Barack Obama, you ready for this? Allegedly diverted $400 million in cash to different accounts with the help of the CIA and Italy from the $1.7 billion he sent to Iran, which was used to not only help steal the 2020 election, switching Trump votes to Biden, but to destroy the Trump presidency and family itself. All roads lead to Obama. Ready for this?
Really brilliant plan that was orchestrated by Barack Obama with the help of Renzi, the former prime minister of Italy. Barack Obama in 2017, just as he was leaving, he took some of the money that was slated for Iran and picked up by Italy to transport to Iran through the UAE. Actually took $400 million. It was 14 pallets of cash of your hard-earned money, and that money was transferred over to different accounts. And that was the plan to help unravel the funding, to unravel the Trump presidency. Basically, the theft of the election was orchestrated in the Rome embassy on the second floor of Via Veneto by an employee, Stefan Serafini, Foreign Service officer of over 20 years. He retired the day before the election to ensure he would not lose his pension, unlike what happened to some of the FBI agents who betrayed our country in 2016 and did lose their pension just days before their retirement. So Stefan Serafini coordinated with a General Claudio Graziano. And Claudio Graziano, General Graziano, is on the board of Leonardo, the defense contractor, Leonardo SPA. Leonardo used their military satellite uplink to load the software and transfer it over to change the votes from Trump to Biden. So what everybody's been saying is that we know something happened, The proof that was missing, the very basic who did it, where did they do it, and how did they do it, has been missing from all of the documents sent into the courts, all of the affidavits. There was nothing that was helping us win in the courts. Barack Obama in 2017, just as he was leaving, he took some of the money that was slated for Iran and picked up by Italy to transport to Iran through the UAE. Actually took $400 million. It was 14 pallets of cash of your hard-earned money. And
all roads lead to Obama. If that was the alleged blueprint, this is the promised crackdown. FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau has what it needs and arrests are coming soon.
Let me ask you about the mission, because every time I see President Trump, he says this repeatedly, that the election was rigged in 2020. I mean, he says it all the time. We all know that. And it's almost getting lost because he says it so much. You've been at the FBI now 14 months. Have you done anything about that? And do you have anything to tell us about that?
Absolutely, Maria. Look, I've been with the president nearly since day one on this. As I told you earlier, I was the one that led the effort with folks like Trey Gowdy, Johnny Ratcliffe, and Devin Nunes to expose the corruption that tried to thwart President Trump's first presidential election run. And we saw the FISA abuses there. And I lived through it, and the media came at me then, too. That just shows you that when you're over the target, you keep pummeling the target because the media is going to try and pummel you. We are not going to take this and have not taken this laying down. We did already indict former Director Comey, and that's going through the judicial process. But we also, at this FBI, even though we uncovered what we uncovered back in the House Intel days, I had to come in here and find rooms that they hid from the world. I had to come in here and find access on our computer systems in restricted and prohibited case files that they purposely put in places for no one to see and find. We have found all this information. We are working with our Department of Justice partners, and I am never going to let this go, because they not only have personally attacked the presidency of the United States and President Trump, but they tried to thwart our elections and rig the entire system. And that is not something that is going to stop That is not something I'm going to allow on my watch.
Right.
But you just have to remember, they built this disease temple over 20 and 30 years. We've got all the evidence. I can announce on your show that we've got all the information we need. We're working with our prosecutors, the Department of Justice, and their Attorney General Todd Blanche, and we are going to be making arrests. And it's coming, and I promise you, it's coming soon.
Well,
That's all I needed to hear, man. Evidence in hand, John Solomon now pointing to intelligence on China and Iran breaching voter databases. This just breaking today.
New story out that tells us that perfect election in 2020, remember the one that Chris Krebs said was the most secure in American history? It wasn't. And in fact, we knew going in, the United States intelligence agencies knew going in it wouldn't be the most secure election in American history. We now have confirmed that both Iran and China hacked into voter registration databases and used that data for malinfluence measures and other things in the 2020 election. But today's story is very important. It shows that in the beginning of the 2020 election season, while a lot of people were babbling, we had a great secure system, the intelligence community assessed unanimously that our election systems were highly vulnerable to foreign penetration. Voting machines less likely in the present, more likely in the future. But the voter registration databases, which, by the way, just a few months later got hacked by Iran and China, were assessed to be extraordinarily vulnerable. And then the intelligence community said what would likely happen if those voter databases were breached, that foreign powers like China and Iran might try to vote in the election on behalf of other peoples. What do we know now happened? We know the FBI intercepted tens of thousands of fake driver's licenses that were supposed to come in to get ballots for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. So one of the things that is very important for those senators who might be sitting there right now thinking, we don't really have an election security problem, read the documents we've put out in the last 4 weeks. And these are not the most explosive documents to come out from the DNI. I believe Tulsi Gabbard will reveal sometime in May, early June, that there were 18 states that had their voter registration databases breached by China in some form, on top of the one that Iran did. That is a national alarm, and it's been kept a secret for 6 years. When it happened in Great Britain went into great alarm in 2024. There were recriminations and reforms. I think that moment in May, when each state gets notified, hey, your voter data was compromised by China and it was used in this way, that could be an awakening moment and perhaps change the debate in the Senate. Otherwise, I think John Thune's grand old procrastinator party, the GOP, grand old procrastinators, probably won't get the bill done.
Talk about the SAVE Act, I'm sure. So the firewall around most secure election ever keeps breaking down. We have more here. 17,327 dead Michigan voters were found that cast ballots in the 2020 election, while corresponding obituaries, which many were from years before the 2020 election.
There is a gentleman named Eric Lutzen, and he has matched up a list. He started looking at voters above the age of 80 that were registered for voting and did vote in Michigan, and 17,327 Michigan voters also had a corresponding obituary. And I didn't print that whole thing out, but I can give you that website for the tabular data.
How much more evidence do you need? Poll workers observed backdating mail-in ballots, entering birthdays in the electronic poll book as 1/1900, creating fraudulent voter registrations to match fraudulent votes. And then we have this. Colonel Phil Waldron states an email was verified confirming that Nevada's Secretary of State office emailed the entire 2020 election voter database and voter rolls to a Pakistani ISI-linked tech firm named Covtech. The reply email is carbon copied to Wakas Boot, CEO, co-founder of Covtech Solutions.
Do you have any reason to suspect or believe that there was foreign interference in our election?
Yes.
What are some of those ideas, or why would you say that?
So I guess from a very overt, the Nevada Secretary of State exported basically the whole, personally identifiable information, the voter rolls, to a company called Cavtech in Pakistan that has close ties to the Pakistani ISI, or the Inter-Services Intelligence Agency in Pakistan.
The voter rolls of Nevada.
Yes.
The Secretary of State of Nevada sent
in an email, copied to the one of the co-founders of Cavtech. And this company, one of the things that they advertise is natural language processing and sentiment analysis, which those of us that have run strategic influence operations, deception operations, those are tools to gauge sentiment, understanding, and an understanding of a target audience. And so if I was trying to influence operations in Nevada as far as elections, I would really want to know what the voter sentiment in Nevada was with that specific target audience. I mean, kind of going back to psychological operations, you are trying to create either an action or inaction in a specific target audience, and those would be the type of tools that you would need to specifically electronically target to gain sentiment analysis and then to push messages back out.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino had John Solomon on his show today, made an interesting prediction that Trump will soon unveil evidence that foreign powers meddled in the 2020 election, which will result in John Thune ultimately caving on the filibuster and the Save America Act will get passed. Listen to this.
Now we have a bunch of lazy senators who want to threaten the filibuster and not get off their feet and talk and really represent the people and stand for what they believe in. And all the American people are asking John Thune to do is to restore the Senate to the way it used to work before Mitch McConnell's lazy filibuster ideas kind of came into play. And I think that the American people are going to be there. Here's what I think is going to happen, Dan. And I think you probably know some of this because you had a foresight into some of the things that the Bureau now knows that was kept from the American public. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds, and he's going to do it by revealing some of the things that Chris Wray and that Chris Krebs and other major officials who were in charge of the integrity of our elections and who told us it was a perfect election in 2020. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people. And we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed with our system more than we knew, more than those driver's licenses coming into Chicago that you helped get all of us to understand about a few months ago, about China sending fake driver's licenses to help Joe Biden in. There are going to be significant efforts by foreign powers, some friends, some enemies, that were trying to meddle in the system, and they got pretty far down that path. And I think when senators realized their state could have been targeted, when senators realized that the intention of the identities of some of their voters might have been assumed, I think there's going to be a different debate in America. And I think if the president takes the time to educate people and show them that maybe the stories we got from the last leadership weren't true, I think he's going to pick off the votes. And then the American people are going to put some pressure on John Thune, and they're going to surgically implant a stiff back, and he's going to change that filibuster for this particular thing, make it a standing filibuster, make the Democrats talk till they drop, and then we'll get a vote in the summer. But I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public.
That's a prediction. If Trump's next move is to change the debate with declassified intel, here's the pressure point. Remember Chris Krebs? His clearance revoked. A DOJ investigation into him. President Trump signing the order revoking Chris Krebs' security clearance directed DOJ to investigate him for his role in the overthrow of the U.S. government on November 3rd of 2020. Krebs was the head of CISA, who weaponized his position and conspired with the FBI and big tech to censor truth, evidence, proof, and testimony about the 2020 election, and who designated November 3rd, 2020 as the most secure election in history.
Christopher Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19. A presidential memorandum to the one you just signed. It assurances he might have, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him. but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, a badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Afghanistan, the way that they withdrew with 13 dead, but so many killed, actually. I mean, so many killed outside of the 13 soldiers, hundreds of people killed. And maybe, I don't know, never mentioned, but I mentioned it, 42 or 43 people so badly injured, the legs, the arms, blown off, the face. And this is all because of an incompetent group of people that preceded us, and that would have never happened. And this guy Krebs was saying, oh, the election was great, it was great. Well, it's been proven that it was not only not great. When you look at all these lawyers and law firms that are signing, giving us hundreds of millions of dollars, it was proven by so many different ways in so many different forms, from the legislatures not approving to the that worked from all of the different scamming operations. It was a very corrupt election. They used COVID.
Corrupt election. And finally, we're getting some answers. Big things are about to happen, folks. The fight over 2020 was never merely about a night or a state or a machine. It was about whether the ruling class of bureaucrats, tech censors, media enforcers, and political operatives could tell Americans to shut up while they certified their own innocence. Trump's move against Krebs, Patel's warning that arrests are coming, and the steady drip of foreign interference and ballot integrity claims all point to one reality. The protected class may be losing protection. If President Trump releases intelligence showing foreign meddling and domestic suppression working together, then the lie that 2020 was beyond question collapses all at once. And when that lie collapses, everything built on it starts to shake. The American people were just told to forget 2020, to move on, accept lectures from the same crowd that censored questions and smeared dissent and deleted videos and acted like accountability was dangerous. President Trump is doing the opposite. He's putting sunlight on the people, the agencies, and narratives that demanded blind trust while treating citizens like enemies. That's what leadership looks like. And if arrests are truly coming, then this is the start of a reckoning, not the end of an argument. So share this report everywhere, because you know the algorithm won't do it for you. And leave a comment below. Answer this, yes or no. Do you believe the full truth about 2020 is finally about to come out? Make sure you subscribe, you have your notifications turned on, and text raw feed to 844-840-4963 to get direct alerts from me to your phone. And check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Stay loud, stay fearless, and keep fighting for the Republic.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.